Hello, welcome to I think this is the 15th episode of Scale App Podcast. This is Dan Isenberg. Just remind all the listeners that Scale App Podcast is to bring you exciting, interesting, and a wide variety of examples of companies that are scaling, usually beyond and sometimes way beyond $5 million. This is for startups to listen to, but not be hosted on. This is for companies that are way beyond the startup phase, and it's free. So I invite you to listen, to share, to tell your friends about it, and of course you can always give me comments. It's something that I do because I enjoy watching and understanding how companies grow. And I'm particularly excited today to host Saar Safra, who's the CEO and co-founder of a company called Beewise, B-E-E-Wise. Just say hello, Saar.
Hi, Dan. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited as well.
I'm really excited. I've been watching Beewise. Disclosure, I am a limited partner in a fund called Fortissimo. And Fortissimo was, I think, the earliest or one of the earliest investors to start Beewise way back then. And so I am an indirect shareholder in Beewise, which doesn't influence this particular podcast at all, except for that, of course, I have a stake in them. And I've been watching from afar, but from the very beginning. And I think you're all going to really enjoy this conversation. So let me start off, Saar, with maybe a little bit of unusual question. And by the way, you all know that in these podcasts, we don't prepare anything. This is all come as you are. So Saar doesn't know what I'm going to ask him. So I'm going to ask him, first of all, without saying anything at all about Beewise, just tell us who you are.
So, first and foremost, I'm Saar, father of four, and husband to Shirley, who really is my savior on a daily basis. Because as you can imagine, managing a family and a startup doesn't bode well. And really, Beewise is startup number 6 for me. I've had 5 previous startups, 2 of which were horrible failures, and 3 were successfully acquired. So I still carry the scars on my back. I tasted both ends of the stick. But Beewise is the most exciting and interesting and impactful company I've ever worked for by far, and probably I'll ever work for in the future.
Okay, so now we're in Beewise. Give us the elevator pitch. What is Beewise? And don't say anything about the numbers right now. Just what's the vision? Again, I'm really excited about this, but I want to hear it from you. What is Beewise? What's the vision?
So our vision really is to secure global food supplies by saving the bees. So for those who don't know, bee pollination is one of the 5 pillars of modern farming, and it's the one that's suffering the most, actually. Most people don't realize this. And we're applying technology, modern technology, from AI to robotics and everything in between, in order to save bees, and through that, secure global food supplies, because 75% of the foods we eat are pollinated by bees. 75%, tomatoes, cucumbers, avocado, coffee, cotton, and so on.
Why is this a problem?
Because bees are disappearing on the planet like many other species. So there's modern stressors such as global warming, climate change, pesticide use, disease, and so on, lack of biodiversity, which affects a lot of the different creatures on the planet, insects mostly, and bees as well. And so we're losing bees in droves. Last year in the US, here in the US, we lost 62% of all bee colonies in the US in a single year. That's what the USDA reported. So this is factual, well-checked, well-researched. And that's just in 1 year. So this is not a sustainable input to farming, an input that, depreciates at 62% year over year.
So
this is why we exist.
So this is a huge, huge pain point. It's not just a pain point. This is existential in a way. I don't think that's an exaggeration. Where does Beewise come in, and why Saar Safra? Because I look at your background, it doesn't seem like you're a bee farmer in your past. Maybe I'm wrong.
I'm a wannabe beekeeper. There's many puns you can do with bees, by the way, but I'll say this. So the way we approach this problem is we're obsessed at saving bees. So by saving bees, we're able to secure global food supplies, at least in the pollination component. And we made it our mission. We made it I made it my life mission to save bees. And we do it with modern technology. We apply a different beehive for the bees, for the benefit of the bees, that allows them not only to survive modern stresses, but actually to thrive. And this is really important when you think about regenerative ag, pushing back new bee colonies into nature. This is what we do. Not only do we save them, we allow them to thrive and grow and feed back the world with bees.
And where does technology fit in, and what's your solution?
So we took the four big buckets of why bees are collapsing. There's also probably a long tail of smaller reasons, but there's four big reasons. One of which is global warming, climate change. The other one is biodiversity. There's not enough food sources for bees. Then there's disease, and then there's pesticides. These are four big buckets, and we built a device, a beehive essentially, but instead of a wooden beehive, the beehives we see in the fields that were invented in 1850 and they survived until today, we built a modern beehive, but using different sensors, motion sensors, video sensors, sound, and infrared temperature sensors. We're able to understand and applying an AI model. The model is able to understand what is going on with the bees, what their needs are, and then apply a treatment inside the beehive itself in real time using precision robotics. So, for example, if bees are too warm or too cold, the device thermoregulates accordingly. If the bees are hungry and they don't have food outside, there's not enough forage, the device applies food or medicine, and so on and so forth. In real time, in the field, we have thousands of these devices, mostly scattered in North America, but a few in Israel as well. And so this is kind of a proven technology already working, operating at scale.
So these are actually pretty big things. In my imagination, I compare them to like a shipping container, a small shipping container, something like that, right? And inside, could you just describe a little bit what's inside of those?
They used to be big. Now they're smaller, and we're kind of working on miniaturization, constantly trying to get them smaller and smaller so they can fit in different applications for pollination or even for private people to have in their backyard. Today, they're about, I would say, 8 feet long and 3 feet tall and 3 feet wide, like a big dinner table, essentially. And inside, you have at the bottom the bees. We have 10 colonies, so 10 different separate families of bees with their own queen, each one with their own queen. And then there's cameras and sensors on top of the bees, which monitor the bees 24/7. There's an AI model in the cloud. We're an AWS shop, so all these devices report to the cloud all the information. And then the cloud makes decisions. The cloud is basically a virtual beekeeper, an AI beekeeper, makes decisions and sends the commands, the programs to the actual robots inside the device. So in every device beyond the cameras and the bees, there's a robotic system. Think of it as a mechanical apparatus that can actually move and apply treatments for the bees. I'll just say one more thing. You asked me earlier, why Saar Safra, right? And I'll just say, for me, it's an ego thing. I want my name on the short list of names of people who actually turned the tides for bees in the history books. I want to leave a mark. And there'll be a few thousands, maybe a few tens of thousands of people that actually did something meaningful to best the bees. I want to be among that very luxurious list.
So tell us now about Beewise. You've described the product in a way. You've described the pain point. Can you tell us what is just by the numbers? What is Beewise? People, bees, money raised, some idea of revenues, et cetera, just by the numbers.
So today we're a small company headquartered out of California. We're about 170 people strong. We have R&D offices in Warsaw, in Tel Aviv, and manufacturing in Mexico. We operate only in the U.S. and in Israel. And we have a few thousands of these bee homes scattered um, just all over the US, from California to Florida, from North Dakota to Texas, so all over the US. And in terms of money raised, we raised about $170 million to date. But again, we're a CapEx heavy company, so we apply a lot of working capital towards manufacturing. And so we will continue to raise capital, whether it be equity or debt. But, like, like other manufacturing companies, you can imagine Apple, Tesla, Nvidia, that's what I aspire to. We will have to raise more capital, but again, every device is profitable. So these devices generate a profit. We're not profitable as a company because we don't have enough devices, but once we pass a certain milestone of devices, they will cover the costs of R&D, OpEx, and so on, and we become a profitable company probably within the next couple of years, at which point we'll consider our options on how to access different capital wells, or cheaper capital wells, if you will. In terms of revenue, again, we're a private company, so usually we don't divulge these numbers, but let's just say we're getting close to 9-digit number that we'll look to bypass soon, and in the millions of dollars, obviously. Yeah, and I'll give you the most important number, Daniel.
Okay.
Last year we saved 124 million bees. So we measure how many bees we save. That's our success metric, because the more bees you save, the better pollination is, the more honey you produce. That's your yield, essentially.
Give us just some idea of the overall scheme of things, because I have no idea what percentage 124 million is of the total bees out there.
Phenomenal. So the way we look at it is, there's a market, or there's an industry benchmark of how many colony losses happen over a course of a year. That's the measurement unit. Last year it was 62%, as we mentioned, in the US. Globally, it was 43%, somewhere in between, of bee colonies lost all around the world. In our devices, when we measure these things, our devices are able to lower that number within our bee homes, which are our beehive devices. It's less than 8%. It's actually 7.5%. So that compares to 40% or 60% of colonies lost, which means all those colonies that were not lost in our devices are bees that were saved, because they would have been lost otherwise had they been in the wooden boxes. So this is how we measure the number of bees. The numbers are staggering because there's a lot of bees in a single beehive.
How many?
But a beehive is 60 seconds. We'll dive into the biological aspect because it's very interesting. So beehive has a single queen, and she has about 50,000 daughters. They're all sisters, right? That's why it's called a colony. In many languages, it's called a family, but in English, it's a colony. There's some males, but they're not meaningful to the actual colony. They go in and work on other colonies. And that's a family. A single bee lives for about 6 to 8 weeks. So the bees die all the time. We're never referring to bee mortality. We're talking about colony collapses, because a single queen lays 2,000 eggs a day. These bees hatch. So even if a colony lost 10,000 bees, the queen will make up for it in 5 days. A queen lives for 6 years. And if a queen dies, one of the eggs she hatched, or she laid, hatches out as a new queen. So a DNA lineage of a colony remains forever. We have on this planet DNA lineages of 150 million years. So colony collapse is not a natural phenomenon. Colony collapse is when the whole colony, including the queen, they all die, and the DNA is cut off forever. So when we talk about 40, 50, 62% colony collapse, it's all those DNAs that we will never get back from the history from the origins of bees, right? So it's horrible. And as you said, it is, we talk about, rising sea levels and, carbon in the air, ocean acidification. All these things are happening, but at a very slow pace. We talk about 50, 100 years out, the temperatures will rise by 1%. With bees, we're 24 years out. If this continues to be the trend, we are 24 years out.
Wow.
For having to buy a single tomato for $100. That's what the UN reports. The UN did a lot of analysis and research, and they say a single tomato will be the highlight of our Shabbat dinner because it will be $100. That's the new steak or whatever.
So Beewise is a pioneer. You'd think that with such an existential problem, there'd be other companies trying to solve this problem. And I imagine that there are, but you've taken a unique approach. Is that accurate?
Very much so. We've taken I would say, if you would be obsessed about saving the bees, there's no other way to do it. There's no shortcuts. This is, you can't save the real world with bits and bytes in the cloud. Bits and bytes work great for cybersecurity and many of the things in software and enterprise software. But to save the tomatoes and avocados and coffee that we love, you have to do something in the real world. And in the real world, bees are dying because of pesticides, because of temperatures. And so there's no shortcuts. This is why we went out of our way and we're building. If you look at my 5-period startups, they were all software. I'm a software guy, essentially. I would always opt to solving things with software. Building such a intensive hardware apparatus is not in my DNA, but it's a necessary thing if you're serious and obsessive about saving bees.
Okay, let's shift gears a little bit and talk just about business. How do you make money, and how has that evolved from when Beewise was started to today? I assume it has changed somewhat.
Yeah. So, what we do today is we don't sell our devices. We're basically providing them as a service. So we go out to large commercial growers, folks like Olam, Blue Diamond, Driscoll's, and others, Nuveen, TIAA, and we provide them pollination services with a much better mousetrap, if you will. They have two choices. Today on planet Earth, there's two choices for you to pollinate your fields. One is a wooden box that was invented in 1850 with 40, 50, 60% colony collapse. The other one is a tin box, ours, which was invented in 2018 with 8% colony collapse. Those are the two options you have as a commercial grower that wants to grow crops at scale. And so we scaled our business. We've been growing top line revenue by 130% year over year for the last 4 years in a row since we started generating revenue, because there's so much demand. You go to Olam. Olam is a $40 billion company in agriculture, and they've been doing for 60 years. They've been doing pollination with wooden boxes, and we come to them and we show them, look, there's a robotic hive. It gives you transparency, visibility, accountability. You save bees by still doing the pollination you would do anyway, right? And so we've seen demand surge. We're on that hockey stick as if we were a SaaS company. And the nice thing is we are a SaaS company because we provide it as a service. So it's pollination as a service. It's not software as a service, but same thing, right? It's an ARR. We get paid over the course of a year. Our customers are mostly large enterprises, global enterprises. Our average customer pays us about $300,000 a year. We have 300 customers overall. So it's not, there's no concentration there. We pollinate many types of crops, from almonds to avocados to canola to other seeds, onions and carrots and the whole gamut.
So you'll actually move the hives from place to place during the pollination season or the period where it's relevant.
Correct.
You'll get a rental. Basically a rental for that period, as I understand it.
Yes, it's a service. So we don't. Yeah. The device is basically ours to use, and we use it in different applications and different crops and different fields and different customers. So you won't get the same device every time. But if you're a commercial grower and you need 3-4 pollinations throughout the year because you have avocados and almonds and citruses, we will give you service throughout the year. We'll do the pollinations. We'll move the devices. We'll service the devices. We'll make sure the bees stay alive. And you get white glove service. You sit back in your office in the AC, and you have a portal you can log into and see everything, see all the reports, see the bees, so on.
And I imagine this is the productivity. is measurably improved because the pollination is better and the yields are better, et cetera, et cetera. The costs go down. So it's
Exactly. It's nature, right?
beneficial.
So
Beneficial.
it's very mechanical. 1,000 bees pollinate better than 500 bees that pollinate better than 100 bees. So the lower you can lower colony collapse, the more you increase the yields of the crop, the more money you make.
So if you could take your magic wand, I mean, it just sounds to me, and I'm not an expert. It's a no-brainer. Like if you could be 1,000 times bigger tomorrow, you could sell 1,000 times more. So what keeps you up at night? And this is a race against time, right? You're saying 24 years is the doomsday, right? So what are you doing?
That's what keeps you up at night. Like our deadlines are biological. We all, I go to the teams, to the product team, and we have a deadline of February 26th. It's not because the CEO or the investors or the shareholders. It's because this is when pollination begins. If you're not ready by then, you lose a year out of 24. That's 5%. You just lost the race by 5. So that's how we measure ourselves. And Dan, it's not only how we operate, it's how we hire. Like anybody who works at Beewise is here because they're passionate about the bees. If you don't mention that in your hiring process, unsolicited, you might be the most talented person on planet Earth. You will not get hired to Beewise. Hint for anybody who wants to work with us. But the reason I say this is because that's the only way we're going to win. This is not about capital. This is about human talent and how much passionate we are. And we'll raise how much capital we need to get there. So we'll do whatever needs to be done. Again, when you're obsessive, you do weird, stupid things as long as you get to the goal. In this case, if we win, we all win.
Right.
It's a win-win-win-win-win.
No, it's impressive that it's hard to think of anything that is wrong about this. You're doing something that is obviously hugely beneficial to the world. In fact, more than beneficial. So is the bottleneck people? Is that if you had 1,000 of the right kinds of people motivated in the right way, that you'd be able to be much, much bigger, or is there some other bottleneck? I mean, at time, obviously, you can't flip a switch and be 10 times bigger, but maybe you could do it faster.
We could do it faster had we had more capital. Capital is really the bottleneck because we need capital to apply towards manufacturing. If you look at all the other risks and kind of the how you execute, they're all taken care of. There's demand is 10 times bigger than what we actually have today. We know this. The technology works great, could work better. We're constantly improving it and making it more efficient. That number, 7.5% colony collapse, has to go down even more. And it used to be 8% and 10 and 12. So this is a constant area of investment. But I'm saying all these things are de-risked at this point. What really is the bottleneck is capital for manufacturing, because that means more devices, and talent. You're right. Good people are hard to come by. It's still hard to convince people to not take the easier route, to go to cybersecurity or enterprise software, or do something easy and quick rather than, the timeframes here are longer, right? You're talking about nature, and there's cyclicity because it's seasonality. You need more patience, and so it's hard to attract talent still. And it's hard to attract capital still, especially given the last 3 years where capital was more scarce.
Let's leave the capital aside for a second, talk just about people. What kinds of people would facilitate faster growth? Is it sales? Is it production? Is it logistics? Is it R&D? Is it all the above? What is it? Leadership?
I would say two things. First and foremost, we have fantastic talent in the company. I couldn't be more lucky. It's just, I feel like I won the lottery with the team that we have, and it's an incredible team. They're working their butts off day and night, because time is of the essence. A and B, we need to try and continue to get and garner more talent to the team. Which specific department? There's, if you look at our open headcount, we need people in almost all departments, and it doesn't matter
the above.
all of the above, and whether it's leadership or the newest beekeeper, both need to be super talented and super passionate about our cause because that matters.
And let's talk about the capital side of things. I understand that things take time. You don't go to the vending machine of capital and say Beewise and get 10 or 15 or 20 million dollars of debt or equity. But what is the bottleneck there? Is it availability? Is it risk aversion? Is it finding the right fit?
I would say, it's this specific market, we got into a little bit of a bind. The criteria change a little bit. Today, people want you to be profitable. And like you said, profitability is not a switch. In our case, we can't cut to profitability. We actually have to grow into profitability. It's a little bit different. There's a lot of software companies that overhired. They have 1,000 software developers. If they cut 50%, they become profitable. We don't have that luxury. We're only on 70 people generating, a lot of income. And so because you're not profitable and you're CapEx heavy, these are not things that the current markets are attracted to. Let's just call it that. So despite our, our mission, our vision, our successes, and our growth and the opportunity is really big. I mean, we talk about saving the bees, but from a financial standpoint, our current plan is to get to $500 million ARR in 5 years. The opportunity is great, and the path is very clear. There's nothing new has to happen, like no new technology has to be developed or no new market has to be penetrated for us to get there. If we just keep on executing only in the US, we can get there in 5 years.
People, money. Yeah.
People and money.
Got it. Looking back, we're gonna wind up just a couple more questions because, as I tell my listeners, I try to have the length of Scale Up podcasts. You turn it on when you go to the supermarket, get in your car, and you're done by the time you're finished paying for your groceries. So, just a couple more questions. One is, if you look back, and it's sort of hand on your heart, do you think you've made any mistakes? Would you do anything differently?
Oh, we made 1,000 mistakes every single day. I mean, we always say at Beewise, the only way to succeed is through failure. We fail until we succeed. Nobody has ever done this before. There's no playbook. We're basically writing it. So the only way if you're doing something right is you get to the bridge and you do a U-turn and you have to go back. That's the only way. So
Examples. Any examples come to mind?
Oh, examples. Yeah. I mean, if you look at the evolution of our actual device and the Bee Home, it evolved. What you said earlier, the big containers were the first devices that we started because we wanted to get out of the market very quickly. And so we figured, okay, there's already containers in the market. Let's just take them and retrofit them for the benefit of the bees. We did that, learned a ton, and learned that the container, the form factor doesn't work. Okay, so we tried a different type of form factor, half a container, a little bit taller. That worked in other ways, didn't. And so this is a constant evolution of the product, of trial and error, where, it's not about black or white, it works or it doesn't. It's about how profitable is it? How applicable is it? How many bees does it save? And all these metrics have to kind of go up constantly. And so the technology, well, not really the technology, I would say the product evolves around those learnings. And so call it mistakes, call it failures. I call it learnings. But that's a constant thing at Beewise. And at Beewise, we celebrate failures. We have company meetings or even management meetings where we have to stand up and give examples, and we get clapped and we bow, thank you. Well, we lost a customer, good for you. That's how we operate, and we learn from that, and we celebrate mistakes. There's companies that if you fail, you're cut out. At Beewise, if you don't fail, you're cut out.
So it's encouraging responsible risk taking.
Yeah.
As a way of learning. So let's end with maybe the following question. You told me that you were in your 50s, as we were chatting earlier. If you met your younger self, let's say in your 20s, wanting to start something, let's say like Beewise or some other venture with huge potential, What advice would you give your younger self?
So, it's funny because when I was in my 20s, I did have my first venture. And so I constantly, every once in a while, I think about it. I look back and I try to analyze things that happened in my current eyes of my current age. I'm getting to the age where you don't really say your age. So thank you for saying that. But no, when I was younger, I was um, almost like a freedom fighter. I was so obsessed about, I used to be a software developer. And back then, I used to get acclaimed all the time for being such a great software. I was obsessive. So I would go into code and redo it and redo it and redo it until it was perfect. And when you're a coder, there's things like elegance. So you want your code to not only work, but be really elegant and be well documented. And today, I think that guy, he was the worst software developer on planet Earth. I do not want that guy to work for me because he's just spending time and money on things that don't matter. Who cares if the code is elegant? Get 80% of it out there working, create value. Maybe in 5 years, go back and clean it up. So it's almost like the complete opposite. I see myself as a professional today. I behave almost completely opposite from the CEO of a first startup when I was 25. Didn't really know what I was doing. But I thought I try to be really good at everything I did rather than trying to do just good enough and move over to the next thing just to create value, for the company, for the shareholders.
It sounds like a more iterative process where you can make mistakes, almost like a constant 80-20 rule. And let's not worry about getting it perfect. Let's get it better and better and better and better. Well, Saar, thank you very much. We're going to end now, but I have to say that it's hard to think of anything that you could say bad about Beewise. It's such a, I hate this phrase, but it is such a feel-good company and such a beautiful mission that you're on. It's inspiring. It's hard not to sit here and not root for you and root for your success, not just as an indirect investor, but just as a human being. God, you're critical for my kids and my grandkids' lives, and that's wonderful.
I feel fortunate to be in this position. Really, I don't take it for granted. Like I feel like, how did I get here? For me, it's incredible, and this is why I'm here, because I feel the same way you do. I feel inspired every day, just by the sheer fact that we get to deal with bees, with real living creatures. How many people do you know that built a company that they have an animal in their technology? It's incredible, and so
I have to say, since knowing you, I have a little garden, and I go out there 2 or 3 times a day just to look. And I have to say that since being acquainted a little bit with Beewise, I'll play with my cucumbers, and the bees will be right next to me, and I actually have a good feeling about it. Right? I'm not worried about getting stung. They're just looking to pollinate and bouncing around doing their jobs. And I say, wow, there's 2, there's 3, there's 5 bees. And it does feel really wonderful. I have to say that there's something nice about bees.
well, if we're able to convince you, that's another win. And so thank you for having me. It was fun. And
Well, thank you very much, Saar, and we wish you and your team all the best. And thanks for being on Scale Up Podcast. Just remind everybody that Scale Up Podcast is free. It's to help give all of you listeners ideas about how you can grow and why you should grow your company beyond just the startup phase. Have an impact on the world, have an impact on your investors, your employees, your customers. And this is just a fantastic example of that. So if you like Scale Up Podcasts, like it, share it with your friends, spread the word, and we look forward to seeing you, or at least listening to you in the next episode. So again, thank you very much, Saar Safra of Beewise, and good luck.
thank you.